I would like to go over to our next script, which will be our RagFlow sender script. For sure, once again, TypeScript script. Here we now will need Axios as an import. The next step will be to set our API address. Please don't wonder about I don't use localhost here like I explained it in the tutorial. Like here, this 127.0.0.1 is nothing else than localhost. Most people which are looking this will know this, I think, but for the people which didn't knew it already, here we are now providing the variables we will need to interact with our local RagFlow implementation. Here you can write every string, every value. It's just for giving the RagFlow model the opportunity to track the conversations which are coming from the same user. We now create the function which will actually send the data to RagFlow. The first step for this will be to create a specific question which will send to RagFlow additionally to the data. So here you can see what we will ask it. You're a professional health advisor. I'm the owner of token ID. Will be the token ID is a parameter which will be set in. Based on the following health data from the past week, please provide a personalized suggestion. Health data start. Here we will use the parameter, the data as parameter. And yeah, data stop. So the LLM understands, okay, here will come no further data after this. Once more, we will log it on the terminal. And in the next, we try to get a conversation. For this, at first, we will create our URL. Here, I want to mention one further thing. In the tutorial or in the RagFlow user interface, it's currently the case that the URL has a slash at its end. I think it's not necessary because I set it here, but you have to think about it. So if we would set it here, I think we have to delete it here. I'm not sure if it will work, if it would be doubled. Anyways, like I said, we created here our URL, which we will call. Here we have our header, which we will provide when we call this URL. Then we have here our response object, hopefully, or we are awaiting our response object. And then we're looking into the first data object, the data object in this data object, and we are looking for the idea in the internal data object, which we will write into conversation ID. And this conversation ID we will use further. Before we can do this, implement a check if we have a conversation ID. Otherwise, we directly provide an error onto the terminal so the user understands that there is an issue. I would like to now create the post object which we will use to interact with RagFlow. As soon as we have a conversation, we need to switch the URL and use the completion model or the completion URL. For this, we will use the conversation ID. The conversation ID makes it possible that we can have a conversation with our model, which we just introduced with calling new conversation with our user ID. With this done, we will provide this into post data. In the message, we will provide our role as well as the question, which will be not only the question, but the question with the inside health data. Yeah, then at next we will wait for getting the response to this call. And yeah, because currently it's not working that we switch the stream onto false in the post object. We have to work with a buffered approach to track the right data. For this, we additionally will provide a timeout in terms of if in 60 seconds we don't get any response, then it will be provided an error. The next step will be to actually use the buffer data, which will be a long part. So we are waiting a new promise, which we get from the completion response. The data or every chunk we get from there will be buffered. We use the toString method on this chunk and then append it to buffered data. We will split the buffered data every time we have this sign, which means there should be a new line. If the line is not completed fully, then we will also took this line because we are expecting that the buffer not full ended this line. So we have to add the missing data to it. So here we are using only the fully lines. Here we will trim them from multi-data keywords. And then we will pass it into this JSON data object. And yeah, in case stream ended, we will delete the timeout and check if there's data in buffer data. And if so, we will further process this data. And our last part begins here. So here we check if there have been any error. If there haven't been any error, then we will print the whole answer. Otherwise, we will have to print that there have been an error. And in case there is an error, then we will call this function further. But for now, I know it will be working.